What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars. Today we're taking a look at the latest Disney live action, but really still animated remake, The Lion King, which was released to digital recently. Now a lot of hate has found its way to this film and we will certainly take a look at that soon enough, but it is arguably a divisive film. When looking at stuff like Rotten Tomatoes, this is one of those movies where critics give it a lot of crap, but the audience score is relatively high. Before we begin, I will say right now that I side much more with the audience. I know a lot of you won't really agree with some of the things that I'm going to be saying. All I can really do is try to explain how I feel the way I do
about The Lion King.
In case you've been living under a rock for the last, say, 25 years and never saw the original Lion King film, this movie has the same exact story and plot as that. It's about Simba, a young lion cub who is the son of Mufasa, a highly respected king of not only lions but every other animal in the Pride Lands. When something terrible happens to the king, Simba goes into hiding, believing he was partially responsible for that horrible ordeal. However, he soon learns that you can't just always hide away from your problems. When it comes down to the way critics have reviewed this as a whole, they have often talked about the two polar opposites found in this film when it came down to both good and bad things. On one side of the spectrum, you have spectacular, stellar visuals. On the other, you have spectacular lack of expressions from the characters, at least human expressions, that is. And these two things conflict in such a way that people often have trouble deciding on how they feel about this movie as a whole. Good thing I always break things down into categories. So yeah, I break things down into 5 main categories, each with 5 subcategories of their own. Those main categories are people, writing, behind the scenes, narrative arc, and entertainment. It mostly works like a checklist on what a movie does and doesn't do. The idea about it was just to be as objective as humanly possible while not ignoring bias entirely, since that's completely impossible. I just put bias into its own relative location. So let's look at the core complaint on expression, as it is a valid complaint. Being a more stylized film, The Lion King uses a more realistic approach to animalistic expressions versus the tried and true human personified expressions usually seen in Disney films. And because of that, these animals have a lot of what appears to be blank expressions during particularly emotional sequences, which does affect you a bit differently than the original did. Looking at my 5 categories, expression affects my people category for obvious reasons. The 5 subcategories of people is acting, characters, casting, importance, and chemistry. From a technical vantage point, a lack of expressions negatively affects acting and chemistry specifically. Acting because you have a hard time believing that there is acting range without that expression. Chemistry because visually you can't see what the characters actually think about each other on screen without those expressions. But what you do have is the overall feeling and sensation that they do have that chemistry and are at least attempting to have acting range. So this negatively affected my overall score by a whopping 2%. That's it. It's a valid concern, but it barely affected my score at all. -1 for acting, -1 for chemistry. That's it. The characters have always been great, the casting continually impressed me, and everybody played a pretty important role in what happened in the movie. Side note, we've all seen viral YouTube videos and things like that of animals mourning other animals that they lost, or animals risking it all to save another animal, and those animals don't have human expressions that you want to see in The Lion King either. But you feel those emotions all the same. That leads me to believe that if we weren't spoiled by the original film in the 90s, a lot of these things that people have been complaining about for the remake wouldn't even be an issue. But let's go ahead and talk about the visuals. This is the second time this year that I've looked at the visuals in a movie and said out loud, this is the best graphics I have ever seen in a movie, period. The first time was with Alita Battle Angel, and The Lion King was actually 1,000 times better when it came down to the visuals. I was expecting realistic looking animals. Not this realistic, and even after that, I wasn't expecting the landscapes and the settings to just look so perfect. Maybe Pride Rock I expected, because obviously, but no, every location in this film was taken straight out of the original film, as if they took the images from the original cartoon movie and rendered a magical real filter on top of it. They nailed everything. They nailed all the details in such a way that I was always impressed. So yeah, the visuals, animation, and graphics were all top notch. Yes, I think the visual team should get an Oscar for this movie, but I think whoever was tasked specifically with getting all the minor details spot on should absolutely receive some kind of nod of recognition, because it was perfect. I would still say that the original is a near perfect film that is miles better than this for a variety of reasons, but this remake pays a lot of respectful homage to a classic in a million different ways that makes me smile. Maybe it's nostalgia, and maybe it's just really the fact that technicalities make this movie great because the music is still great, the camera work is still top notch, the visuals took my breath away, the story is deep and still relevant for a modern audience, the voice casting was also awesome. Was it completely necessary? Not really, but I am glad that they did it, and I will tell you why. These live-action Disney remakes as a whole, I think most of them are just okay. None of them are terrible, other than Dumbo. None of them are really that great either. Everybody has their own favorite, and I've heard reasons behind each choice. A lot of people like The Jungle Book. Others like Maleficent because it's not a direct adaptation. Some still cling to Alice in Wonderland. My brother is a fan of Beauty and the Beast. Before this, my favorite was Cinderella because it took the time and energy to explain a few whys behind the motivations of some characters. Why is Cinderella living with the evil stepsisters? Why are they evil in the first place? Honestly, though, I could throw all of the other Disney live-action films in the garbage and not really think twice about it, but that's just something I couldn't do for The Lion King. I honestly love this movie. I appreciate it if you don't, and I will hear you out about why you don't like it. I didn't expect to like it, but I did anyway. I rated The Lion King 93%, 93 out of 100 possible stars, granting it a letter grade of A. If you're wondering where I rank this in my 2019 rankings, in second place. It's currently tied with Spider-Man Far From Home. Yes, the first and second place winners 2019 so far are both Disney movies. Guys, tell me what you thought about The Lion King in the comments down below. As for YouTube, make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you like what you saw and would like to see some more. Hit the thumbs up button if that always helps my channel out, which it does. And don't forget about the little bell icon because that helps notify you when I release my next movie review. But until then, peace out!